Hello, welcome to 2021. Happy New Year. I am going to be reviewing my 2020 reading goals and talking about my 2021 reading goals in this video. So there's a lot to get through. Let's get into it. First up, I would like to continue with the series that I mentioned in this video. So my first goal for 2020 was to continue some specific series. So we'll go through them very quickly. First, Symphony of Ages didn't continue. Wayfarer didn't continue. Mediator did continue and finished. Red Queen continued but didn't finish. Broken Earth didn't continue. Throne of Glass I did continue, but I only read one more book. Grisha I continued. I read the rest of the Shadow and Bone trilogy and I started the Six of Crows duology. Mistborn I read the entirety of Era 2, or everything that's out so far. The Black Dagger Brotherhood I kind of continued. I read a book from it. I wasn't sure if it was a reread or a first time read. It turned out to be a reread, but that's fine. And Lords of the Underworld even, didn't continue. So I didn't do too great with that one. The next goal, and I would also like to start the series that I mentioned in this video, including Wheel of Time, no. The Raven Boys, no. If I'm looking down, it's because I've got notes on my phone. Keeper of the Lost Cities, yes, I read the entire series, so that was good. Discworld, I started, only read one book, wasn't a big fan. Malazan, no. Gentleman Bastards, no. Seven Realms, no. Temeraire, yes, just one book, but I'm not sure if I want to continue with that series or not, so that's okay. Book of the Ancestors, no. And Winter Night, which is the Bear and the Nightingale series, and I did read The Bear and the Nightingale, but that's it. So not doing too great with these goals so far, to be honest, but 2020 was a year, so it's okay. Next was read more broadly in genres, and specifically I would like to continue trying genres that I didn't delve so far into this year. Read new genres. I kind of think that I did this. I'm going to talk about this more in my 2020 reading stats video, so I'm going to skip past this one. I think I kind of did okay with it, but not as well as I would have liked. I would also like to continue with a couple of series that I started on my channel this year, which are my challenge videos and my author trials videos. Continue with my reading challenges. I did do that. I've really enjoyed doing that, and I'm going to continue that series throughout 2021. And the other one was the author trials series, which actually I haven't continued, but I think that reading multiple books by one author back to back doesn't necessarily actually work as well as the reading challenges, because I could do that within one of my reading challenges if I wanted to, so I'm okay with that one. I'd also like to continue with the book club that I set up on my channel towards the end of the year. Continue my book club. The book club now has a name, the Thoughtful Book Club. I have continued it. We are reading the Daevabad trilogy by S.A. Chakraborty for the first 3 months of 2021, so if you want to join in with that, the Discord link will be down in the description box, so we can tick that particular goal off. Following on from my trying new genres goal, I also want to build on what I achieved this year in terms of trying new genres, because I found new genres that I didn't think that I would like that I actually do like, and I rediscovered genres that I hadn't read for a while that I now want to continue reading from. So I want to try to incorporate at least one contemporary or romance book, one historical fiction book, and one science fiction book every single month. Definitely did not achieve that So we're moving on. One of the goals that I didn't do so well with in 2019 was filming monthly book reviews. So doing a dedicated book review video at least once every month. And I did it some months, I didn't do it every month, I didn't really stick to it. I think I'm still a little bit afraid of filming book reviews, which is silly because once I sit down and start filming them, it's absolutely fine. I edit them and they're fine. I put them out there and they're fine. So I don't know why I consistently don't do them, but I really want to continue to make an effort this year to do monthly book reviews. This is an interesting one. No, I didn't film at least one book review every month throughout 2020, which is something that I set myself to do. But on reflection, I don't like filming individual reviews. I don't know why. They're always fine once I film them and edit them and upload them. They do okay. Over time, they're probably one of my better performing videos next to my unboxings, but I don't really enjoy them, and I kind of only want to do them for very specific books that I feel like I have a lot to say about. So I didn't achieve this goal, but actually I was trying to push myself to do something that I really didn't want to do, so it was kind of a silly goal in the first place. So I didn't do that. I would also, throughout the course of 2020, like to read all of the books that are on my current physical TBR. Read all the books on my physical TBR? Definitely not. Definitely not. I mean, I did okay, but there are definitely still quite a few books on my physical TBR that were on my physical TBR this time last year. So no, I will put a number somewhere of how many books, because there were 69 books I think in my physical TBR video from this time last year, and of those 69 I still have this many to read. So no. Tacking on to that, I want to allow myself to DNF books if I don't like them. DNF books. I wanted to give myself the permission to DNF books, and this is something that I'm still really struggling with. I did do this, not very often. I did it maybe a couple of times. In fact, let me check, because I have a DNF shelf. So this year I only DNF'd 2. I DNF'd Blade and Rose by Miranda Honfleur, which I was reading because it was recommended to me by a friend, and I'm really sorry. I don't think Sarah watches my videos anyway, but if you're watching, Sarah, I apologise. I just didn't like it at all. And then volume 1 of Land of the Lustrous by Haruki Ichikawa, I also did not like. So I did DNF, but I know that there are a lot of books that I read this year that I didn't enjoy, and I should have DNF'd, but I didn't because I'm stubborn. So kind of, but not really. Think less about the number of books that I'm reading. No, I didn't do. I'm such a competitive person, and I'm especially competitive with myself. So no, I did not achieve this. I pushed myself in December to read many more books for the sake of the numbers, which we'll get to in a minute, but just no, definitely not. So I am still going to set a reading goal for 2020, and I'm going to set that at 100 books. Read 100 books. Yes, I did achieve this. I think it's quite ironic that I said think less about the numbers, and then I said but read 100 books. That's hilarious in hindsight, but whatever. So I actually, as of this moment when I'm filming it, and it's the 31st of December while I'm filming this, I'm on 199 books, and I have like 2 hours at my own speed of an audiobook left. So I'm, fingers crossed, going to hit 200 for 2020, which with all those 2s, it's just quite satisfying. But again, very number focused, because I think I've read something ridiculous like 26 books this month so far so that I could hit 200, which is clearly extremely number focused and failing on that goal altogether. So, you know, whatever. That's a part of my personality that perhaps I just need to accept and move on. I want to read a lot more from Brandon Sanderson because he is my favourite author and I want to read more of his books. So I'm going to prioritise starting off with finishing off the Cosmere. Finish reading everything in the Cosmere. I did do almost. I have now read everything in the Cosmere, most things a couple of times, except for White Sand Volume 3. Which I don't have a copy of yet, and I did try to read a copy from my library, but it was just far too difficult to try to read it on my phone because it was either zoom all the way in to be able to read the text and miss all the pictures and struggle to find my place, or zoom out but not be able to read any of the text. So this kind of happened, and I'm saying that I completed this goal, but I do technically still have White Sand Volume 3 to read, but I've read absolutely everything else in the Cosmere. I would like to read at least one Sanderson book every month throughout the year, if not more, and that did not happen. On top of the Cosmere books, I did read The Rhythmatist this year, which is one of his non-Cosmere books that I already kind of had on my TBR, and I really enjoyed that, but I definitely didn't read one Sanderson book every month, but that's also fine. I'm not too worried about it. So that was all my 2020 reading goals, and really didn't do that great with them, to be honest, but like I said, that's okay. 2020 was a year, and I think looking back on all of those goals, it was far too much. It was just far too much for me to try to achieve all of that, especially because I didn't really write them down anywhere. I just kind of talked about them in that video and that was it. And so I didn't really hold myself accountable to any of them in that way. So this year I have my goals written down in my reading journal, which looks like this. I might do a flip through of this at some point for you all. Let me know if you'd be interested in that. But I have made a much shorter, hopefully more achievable list. So for 2021 reading goals, the first one, I'm setting 100 books again as my number of books goal, and that's clearly achievable for me. This year I've read nearly 200 books. Last year I read 155, or 2019 I read 155, and in 2018 I didn't start counting until partway through the year and I still did something like 77. So 100 books is clearly achievable for me, but I'm sticking with 100 for some very specific reasons, which I'm going to get into. So my next goal is to spend more time on the books that I'm reading. So this is kind of a variation on the be less number focused, and more so really allowing myself to spend the time that I need to spend on books. And again, there's a very specific reason for that, and it's because one of my goals that kind of is coming over from 2020 into 2021 is to start some new heavy epic fantasy series. So I'll link the video up there for you where I talked about the series that I want to start, and things like The Wheel of Time and Malazan and The Gentleman Bastards and Robin Hobb's books, they're quite dense epic fantasy series that I'm really excited to read, but I feel like I'm going to need to put a lot of time and attention into each of those books individually. So I want to make it a goal and kind of set my intention to spend the time that I need to spend on those particular books to make sure that I'm fully absorbing what is happening, because I feel like I'm going to need to be able to follow everything that's happening. So that is another one of my goals. And then there are some series that I already have on the go that I want to continue. Those include Throne of Glass, Grisha, finally finishing off the Red Queen series would be great, Broken Earth, Wayfarer, The Queen's Thief, Ash Princess, and The Ember Quartet. So those are some series that I have on the go that I would like to continue and ideally finish. And then, as I mentioned, video there about the book series that I would like to start. I also, as you may know, am subscribed now to a couple or a few book boxes. So I'm subscribed to Fairy Loot and now also to Illumicrate and Tales by Mail, although I might not continue my Tales by Mail subscription. It's a middle grade subscription box, but I feel like I'm really quite specific about the middle grade I like to read, so I might not continue with that one. I haven't decided yet, but I get a lot of books from subscription boxes. Minimum of 2 a month, sometimes 4 a month, sometimes more if either Fairy Loot or Illumicrate include an additional book. And I used to be really good about staying on top of reading those subscription box books, but I've really fallen behind with that. So I would like to firstly catch up on my subscription box books. That's really difficult to say. And then once I'm caught up, stay on top of it. So read those books each month. So the Fairy Loot book and the Illumicrate book each month once I've received them. I mean, I usually receive them towards the end of the month, so in the following month. But I would like to just try and keep up with them, because otherwise I'm subscribed to these boxes and I'm not reading the books, which just doesn't make sense. So I need to catch up on them and then stay on top of reading them. I would also like to read more contemporary and romance books, because I have realised that I actually really enjoy reading contemporary and romance books, and I'm including those two things separately because I like contemporary romance, but I also like fantasy romance, paranormal romance, maybe not historical romance, but pretty much anything within the romance genre I enjoy reading. It doesn't have to be contemporary, but I also like reading contemporary. So I want to try and read a bit more of that, especially because my plan is to read a lot of like dense epic fantasy this coming year, and so I'm going to need that lighter, easier to read type book to break all of that heavy fantasy up. So more contemporary and more romance. Also, I want to continue to make an effort to read more books by BIPOC authors, so Black, Indigenous and people of colour authors, and I think I've been doing okay with that, but I could be doing better. But also my physical TBR is not as diverse as it should be, and I still want to read what's on my physical TBR, so I'm going to need to be careful about the books that I'm buying this year and being quite intentional about the books that I'm putting on my TBR for each month. But I definitely want to have a focus on that, and I do actually have on my statistics sheet for this year a section for BIPOC books, so that I can really keep an eye on how many books I'm reading and how many of those are by BIPOC authors. So that's a big one that I want to really focus on and see what I can do to improve those figures, because I know that they're not as high as they should be. And then finally, I want to make the switch from using Goodreads to using the Storygraph. If you don't know what the Storygraph is, it's a reading tracking website and app, which is very similar to Goodreads, but it works better, and it's being created by a Black British woman rather than being run by Amazon. And it's actually still in beta stage right now, but it's still loads better than Goodreads, and I've had it on my phone for a while, but I just have always defaulted to using Goodreads first. So what I've actually done is I've taken Goodreads off of my main kind of homepage on my phone and replaced it with the story graph. I'm not getting rid of Goodreads, I'll still use Goodreads, I just don't want it to be my primary app that I open when I'm logging my reading, because what I'd been doing was using Goodreads as my primary and then just periodically updating the story graph, and I just want to flip that. So I've swapped them round so that the story graph is on my main phone screen and then I have to go through my app menu to get to Goodreads. And I'm hoping that's going to mean that I use the story graph more, because I do think that it is better. And again, it's not owned by Amazon. I will link in my description box a video by Joshana from the channel Joshana C, where she kind of does a walkthrough of the story graph, and it's really, really useful. So I would recommend going and watching that video, because she kind of shows you the functionality and how it works and how useful it really is. So I would definitely recommend checking that out, but I would recommend checking out the website at the very least, and I will link that in the description box as well. So those are my goals for 2021. I did okay but not great on my 2020 goals, but I'm not too concerned about that, because again, it was quite a year and I think that my goals were just unrealistic. I'm hoping that these goals for this year are slightly more realistic. So we have 1, read 100 books, 2, spend more time with the books that I'm reading, 3, use the story graph instead of Goodreads, 4, read the books from my subscription boxes and catch up with the ones that I haven't read yet, 5, read more contemporary and romance books, 6, read more BIPOC books, and 7, start and continue the series that I've mentioned in the videos that I've already linked up above and down below for you. So, do you have any goals that you have set for yourself in 2021? How did you do with your 2020 goals, if you had any? And that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video and want to see more like this from me, then do think about hitting that subscribe button, and I hope to see you here again soon. Thanks. Bye.